Anyways, so in your analogy, you feel that the oil was part of the reasons why we went to that war, not necessarily about
not just part. It was the main reason. And the British had several other investments that were going to be affected in Nigeria. They would have still achieved the same thing, but pride would not allow them to allow this contraption they called Nigeria. Because without the amalgamation of 2014, Nigeria would not be one country. There was no reason for that. And Lugard, as a military man, came, the experience he had in other places in India and other places, he came with his indirect rule. And in order to run the country the way he wanted, he had to amalgamate the two protectorates. And remember too that by 1957, the three regions were independent to a certain extent. Remember the Richard's Constitution of 1946 divided Nigeria into three major regions. And each region was autonomous to a certain extent. They generated their money, they entered into agreement, they did what they wanted. The East was so fast, it was reckoned as the fastest growing economy within that period. And because the North was not ready, independence was delayed. We would have gotten independence in the same year with Ghana in 1957, but the North raised objection that they were not ready. It was delayed till 1960. So if the Richard Constitution and the next one, 1954 Macpherson Constitution, were continued, what we would have had is a confederation of three regions, and of course a Midwest state was region was added in 1963. You wouldn't have had this problem we're having now, because each region would have been allowed to develop on its own. And look at this pyramid you have built now. You have to go with the plate in hand to go to Abuja to go and collect money. Do you know what that means? Why should I work? Look at this, the states are going, there are some states that cannot pay salary if they don't collect money from Abuja. Why do you have such a country where everything is so tight that you have to go with plate to go to Abuja to go and collect money? So the governors come back, they sit down, there's no incentive for them to develop anything. And then it fits into the narrowing of the gap that I talked about, the political space, the economic space. For instance, why do you have the law that we cannot exploit the coal that we have here in Enugu? Because the federal law says the coal is under the federal exclusive list, that the Enugu government cannot dig the coal. It wouldn't have been like that if the regions were continued. We would have had a chance to dig our coal and use it to produce whatever we want.
You know, it's very difficult I don't know, to think that government is deliberate about, you know, putting its population into poverty. Like, it's not like they don't know what to do. They know what to do.
I'm telling you, this is historically incontrovertible evidence when you get into this book. And you can just check in the internet yourself. Why nations fail, the origin of prosperity and poverty. It is deliberate. It is not that they don't know. You tell me that the government doesn't know that to have a borehole in a primary school is good. Do you need to go to school or to have functioning hospital? But all these are part of the shrinking of, to run down the amenities in such a way that the people are on their knees.
But I mean, in that same analogy, is it the same thing with countries that are developed?
No, that's the point. That is the countries that have developed are practicing what we call the virtuous circle, the expansion of the political and economic space to encourage prosperity. Our system does not encourage prosperity. They induct you into the hall of the gang, or how you might call it so, of the group. You belong to the group. Because if they open up the space, they will not have this kind of worshipping that they are getting now. So it will be a big mistake for you to think that government is getting it wrong because they don't know what to do. Maybe to a certain extent, if you employ people who don't, the government has money to employ people who can get consultants, who can do assessment. So take for instance oversight function here, you give a contract. Choice, if you give somebody a contract to build a house for you and he doesn't build it, what will you do? You leave him? What will you do?
I'll go after him.
You go after him and throttle him and hold him by the neck.
Right.
And if the one who has given the contract has taken 40% of the money, he will not have any moral authority to talk to you. He say, go do the much you can do and leave it. And then coming back to me and you, we pass that road, we don't complain, or we are grumbling only in our rooms. Nobody will pick up a book and write a petition to the office of the person who is supposed to supervise it. Are you aware that here in the Enugu House of Assembly here, that the legislators have oversight functions to all the projects that the government is building? Are you aware of it? And money is voted for the legislators to go and look at those projects. Are you aware? Are people aware? Are you aware that the government is not supposed to be able to spend any money unless it is approved by the House? Because we have 3 organs of government. The executive will bring the budget, and then the House will approve it, even amend it, put something that they think is necessary, that is not there. But if you have the 2 arms working together, whatever the executive brings, then they stamp it. How many of our people look at what is called budget? But when we finish, we start looking at implementation. Take, for instance, education. The United Nations benchmark for education is 26% of the total budget, the annual budget. How many percentage do we budget? Are you aware?
I think around
6, 7, highest 9.
Yes.
And then they tell us that when they budget 7%, maybe 1 or 2% will be provided money. If you are wondering why the Minister of Education is not functioning properly, let us leave this so that even when the money is given to them, it may not go down where it should be. But 7% is too small for education. If you want to look at what I'm telling you about narrowing the space, when you budget 7%, it means that the educational sector is down. The prosperity we are supposed to get is not going to come because the education sector is down. 26%. East African countries are budgeting 26. Rwanda is budgeting 26%. And tell me, Charles, why is it that Nigeria is not budgeting 26%? And look at the money that is budgeted for education and look at the money that is budgeted for the legislators, the executives. If they take 75% of the budget to service themselves, now you come to the point where I mentioned, Charles, that the extractive political structure and economic structure is to extract money from the poor in order to give it to the rich. I'm sure this is very clear now. You understand why you will budget 6-7% for education and take 75% of the budget to service the people who already have. And they say the Bible says those who have should get more, and those who don't have, what will happen? You remember the parable of the talent. The man that was given 1 talent, he was one that hid it. He didn't use it for anything. So the Oga said, take that talent from him, give it to the man who has 10. And then they said, but he has 10. He said, those who have more will be given to them. But this is not the interpretation in what I'm talking about.
Right.
So that narrow space where people are not allowed to expand, to participate. So if you start raising critical voice, they start checking whether you are in their side or on the other, or not on their side. And they start looking for a way to victimize you. And then people keep quiet. They grumble, they complain. They don't do anything that is important in order to change the situation. And I can tell you, in the Catholic Church, we have been praying this prayer since 1993, prayer for Nigeria in distress, since 1993. And we are still in that distress. No amount of prayer without work is going to change the situation, because those who are going to change it are people like you and me.
interesting conversation. I mean, so what's the dimension of change in it that the people are involved in? Because again, the analogy of narrowing the space in order for people to come forth, to ask for crops where necessary, it would also be expanded to how our electoral system have been over time, except for just this 2022 act that we wish that throws up the best of us in terms of allowing people's wishes to come through. Do you think that it's possible, even with with what we're seeing, because that so-called narrow space still exists? Do you think it's possible with the way things are?
Yes, but you can see, Charles, how long it is taking us to come to a time where you are going to use the beavers to vote, because it serves the interests of the politicians to let it be the way it has been. I hope you are aware that some people have gone to court to stop the beavers, so that it should not be used. So they will have the leeway that has always been the case to rig the election, buy the vote, buy themselves into the office. So it is taking a long time. This is the beginning. Well, if we start voting in the right people, because look at the vote apathy, which is, I say, when you blame the people, in the next edition maybe we'll talk about why people are selling their votes, and why many people are not even collecting their PVC. Yes. They tell you, the people, they look at the whole situation, they don't see any hope in it. They don't see any bright light. The same thing, yes, their village is the same, the local government has a location, but it doesn't come there. Everything is the same as it has been. So the people get tired and they resign. You know how you will treat a maid in the house, you subdue that maid. You use beating and all the power that you have as the madam of the house and make that maid not to make pim. If you make pim, I will kill you. And gradually the person accepts the position of a slave and begins to stay in it and try to be comfortable inside it. That's what is happening to our people. This is the beginning. If our votes will actually count, which I'm asking our people to come out. And unfortunately, the figures we are seeing from the East is not encouraging. There are still millions of people who even went to register when Peter Obi came on the scene. The enthusiasm was high and people were running to go and register. They registered to go and collect the cards. It became a problem. We're actually trying to see if we can help. If anybody is going to call to say that the person needs help to collect his card. If it is from the village, we will sponsor buses to go and bring those women, bring them to where they are going to collect their cards. Because you can't collect for another person. So why are they not collecting the cards? We look at the situation, the environment, the context in which this is happening. And if you have been in this way for so long, people are merely trying to survive. And this is like trading, The politicians are, demand and supply, the seller and the buyer. So they come every 4 years. And the woman who is collecting 2,000 says, can't they go to Genfo? Because she knows that once they enter into the place, nothing is going to happen. And when she says, whether I vote or I don't vote, they will still rig themselves into the place. Can't they Genfo? So let me collect the crumb that they're given. And then you collect it and they go into the office and they don't care about you anymore.
Wow.
So, by chance, let's look at the reason why the war was fought and whether the staying together is working.
Right, Nigeria's unity. I mean, that's why I said today might not be enough.
Okay, so maybe we will talk about it some other day.
We're only 20 minutes to the end.
Okay, there are other angles. We might repeat, do a follow-up on this program because it's very, very interesting.
Join the conversation this morning, 0700 1055 0000. That is 0700 1055 0000. You can also call 0700 1055 1055. It's an interesting discourse today. Hello, good morning. You're welcome. Your name and location. Good morning. Okay. Okoro? Okay. Okoro, you just have to call us back. Hello? Hello? Good morning. Okay. That flipped on me. Let's see. 0700 1055 1055. Hello? Good morning. Your name and location. Okay, go ahead.
That's the Reverend. Please, there's something I've been asking all these the journalists at the radio and the broadcasters. Please don't be annoyed. I want to know, the imagination of the television upon the 1914. And I learned that they said after 100 years that they can decide in 21. And now there's a time I was in Kaduna, and I wanted to travel to Germany to learn furniture. And they asked me that if I get there, I will learn German for 6 months. Now I want to ask, in Nigeria today, if someone wants to come to Nigeria, what language, general language will he learn? Is it Yoruba? Is it Igbo? Is it Hausa? How do you know a Nigerian? Thank you.
What a question. Hello? Apex, you're welcome. Go ahead.
In the studio, I've already said a lot of things. If it was a word that you can use to refer this country, by now we would have repaired it, because we are not lacking people with wealth and knowledge. But the issue is that we don't have the people who have the will and capacity to repair this country. Before I go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Reverend, back to you.
Okay. I'm taking the question from Chris from Asaba, together with the last speaker.
Okay.
The first part of the last speaker is about PVC. We have talked about it. So let's take the issue of agitation. What is it that is wrong? There are people who have studied self-determination movements in the whole world, and there is a pattern. Let's take, for instance, ANC in South Africa. How they were established, how Nelson Mandela came to be in charge, and how eventually through that movement they got what they were looking for. So what I think that is happening with the IPOP is that the elders thought that they were joking when they were starting, and they left them. You understand? And now that the consequences of leaving them without giving proper advice that is needed, our people say, Iloma ke ejulaja aga n'ogwu. Iloma ke ejulaja aga n'ogwu. If you want to go international, you have to have certain kind of diplomacy. There are certain things you need to do. And when the elders who are supposed to guide them were aloof, thought that, oh, this thing will fizzle away. The young people are angrier than some of us. I was a little boy during the war. So the people who are reading the things that happened, the things I'm explaining now in the internet, they feel bad and want to do something, and there's nobody who is guiding them properly. If they make a mistake, our people say, so I think there are a lot of things that could be changed, but to say that the agitation is not right, it is not true. There are a lot of reasons why the people are agitating, especially in the East. Take, for instance, immediately after the war, the Yakubu Gowon made the 3 R's. Reconciliation, rehabilitation and reconstruction. None was done in the East. Not one was done. And that space for the East was getting narrower and narrower, and that is why our people are running out. You cannot start any industry here in Enugu because where you have, there's no road to bring raw material from Lagos. It will fall down. Even the trunk roads that are connecting other states into Enugu, the roads are not there. You can see, so our people will run out, the Niger, dredging the Niger bridge so that those who trade in Onitsha can have their goods. You see that the Atlantic Ocean is not far from the Niger. If you come from Oguipele or Samara, you can come direct to Onitsha bridge. That water is not dredged. And then everyone has to go to Lagos. And you know how much they are paying. So this is what we are talking about, that there are things that made the agitation almost impossible. And you push someone to the wall, and if there's no other space, the person will come back to attack you. So what I'm thinking is that the agitation has to be properly aligned, it has to be synergized, and the principle for self-determination everywhere is don't oppress the people you are fighting for. Do you understand that? Don't oppress the people you are fighting for, because you will lose. If you are fighting for them and they say, no, we don't. Remember the Israelites, when they complained against Moses. If we were in Egypt, we were eating, we were doing this and that, and now you brought us this place. So they have a legitimate cause, but it has to be properly aligned. So go back to the last person who was talking about the voters card, and he talked about if we cannot stay together, let us part ways. And why not? There are instances in the history. The leaders understood that it is better to separate peacefully without spilling blood. And those leaders conducted themselves and separation took place. Other people refused to allow that natural separation. Let's take some instances. Netherlands and Belgium were one country. Until 1831, they separated. 57% of Belgians speak the same language with what they speak in Holland, but they still separated. Malaysia and Singapore, they got independence in 1963. 2 years later, they separated. Singapore, they are good neighbors. Bangladesh separated from Pakistan in 1971. So anyone who is saying, oh, this is sacrosanct, you cannot separate, who says that? There's no reason why you cannot separate. The Irish people, Irish Republic, was the same country with Great Britain. That is Scotland, Wales, and England. And you hear what is coming on now from Scotland. They say they want to separate. It was the same British who said, oh, Biafra cannot go because they accepted to be part of Nigeria before. Now the same thing is haunting them in their own backyard. Scotland, they say they want to be separate. They want to go out from Britain and join the European Union. So there is no reason why we cannot separate. We saw even in Kosovo, we have Eritrea and Ethiopia. They fought, and then after fighting, South Sudan and Sudan, they fought for so many years, and eventually most of South Sudan were slaves from Nigeria here, more than 60%. Now they have given them their own state. Unfortunately, they are fighting. They cannot even hold that state. So I think that the issue of remembering those who have died, who fought for what unity, how far is that unity? We have to look very well and see whether it is better to have a loose confederation where the languages, the people who are staying together can manage themselves, or to have a very big country the way the British conceived it. There is no reason why we should stay in that way. The last one was from Mbodile about amalgamation. Yes, that amalgamation was not among the three regions, but amalgamated, Lugard amalgamated the northern and southern protectorates and the colony of Lagos. The colony of Lagos was administered separately from the southern protectorate. So the two north and south, including the east, because it was the Richard's Constitution that created the three regions, the eastern region, the northern region and the western region. And I said later in 1963, the Midwest region was created. This should have been 4 countries, or a loose confederation where, like in Switzerland, each of the regions would be autonomous. They generate their money, they spend it, they bring some amount to the center. Decentralizing so that people are not running to Abuja to go and collect money. Rather, the center is collecting money from the regions, because every region is very well endowed.
Wow, what a day of learning. Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Tobin Namani, for your time and all of the teachings that you have put out today. It's one that we would wish to continue, but because of the constraint of time, we'll just have to let it go. To return next week, Thursday, for another fantastic edition. It has been one fine time with you out there. Remember that the regularly scheduled program continues on this radio station. We want to also appreciate you, Reverend, for finding time to come through every Thursday to give us some of this interesting teaching. We truly appreciate that. So we're going to revisit this hopefully next week, or maybe we'll do something else next week. Are we doing the reasons or the causes of the war next week?
Yeah, we can go ahead, and so that be a good follow-up. So that audience will now follow it properly.
Okay.
And then we return to the other topic later.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
May I use the opportunity also to say that this program is open for contribution. If you want to sponsor, you can reach me on 08036378803. It is a program on civic education and on finding solutions to our myriads of problems, that the participation space should be open. People should not lie down and just complain.
Right.
That there are things that can be done, and those things have been done in other places, and some of them have succeeded. It is our duty to leave a legacy to our own children. When they come, we say, this is what we have done. Continue from there.
All right. Thank you so much once again. This has been a production of the People's Creative Empowerment International. Thank you again. See you next week. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.